Okay. All right. So welcome everybody to the Lifestyle Medicine Interest Group Lecture Series. My name is Alex Fang. I'm a first-year medical student here and a member of the Lifestyle Medicine Interest Group at SUNY Downstate. And we are so privileged today to have our speaker, so Dr. Don Greene. And for a little introduction, Dr. Greene is a peak performance sports psychologist that is taught his comprehensive approach to peak performance mastery at New World Symphony, Los Angeles Opera Young Artist Program, Vail Ski School, Perlman Music Program, US Olympic Training Center as well. And over his 35-year career, he has trained many Olympic champions with 14 medals and 5 gold to the name as well, as world champions, Grand Prix drivers, Hall of Fame athletes, and more than a dozen PGA and LPGA tournament champions. He has also authored 8 books and was named a TED educator, collaborating with musician Dr. Annie Bosler to produce the TED Ed How to Practice Effectively for Just About Anything, which has since been viewed over 31 million times and quite a few by me, which I really enjoy that video. Today, he will be speaking to us about peak performance for healthcare professionals and specifically on finding joy and avoiding burnout. And thank you so much for speaking with us, Dr. Greene. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure, to talk to you guys. And Stephen, thank you so much. I'm excited about this. You might say I'm even nervous because I grew up with a fear of public speaking. I was diagnosed with a speech impediment when I was 4. I couldn't pronounce certain sounds like the GR sound. If it wasn't for my last name, I'd be okay. When I talked, people laughed and I just shut down. I had a great fear of being called on in class. I started gymnastics at age 7 on trampoline. I had no fear. My only fear in life was ever fear of public speaking. All through high school, even through West Point, I struggled with it. Senior year at West Point, I had to give a brief talk on my master's, on my, even just flashback is just, I could feel the energy surging. On my major, which was revolutionary warfare, I knew it, but a week, 2 before, I couldn't sleep. Certainly not the nights before, fight response. I blanked out the whole thing. It's a bad experience. I graduated. I went through paratrooper training, commando training, Ranger School, and I was first in my class to join the Green Berets. 12 parachute jumps, platform diving. I was still afraid of public speaking. I got my master's degree in forensic science. I was a detective for 6 years. I took classes at George Washington University and the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology in forensic pathology and forensic odontology. I had 3 jobs, Office of Special Investigations in Illinois, San Diego DA's office in the forensic psychology section. They wanted me to get my degree in forensic psychology. I started looking around at schools, found a program in sports psychology. I thought, enough of forensic science, that was okay. So I went and got my degree in sports psychology, did my dissertation on centering, which I'll talk about today, a strategy that I'd like to teach you all, a really quick way to focus, like between procedures. That's where we're getting to, so bear with me. And I started my degree and I discovered centering by the man who invented it as a way to really shift and regulate energy and shift from left brain to right brain before you execute a motion, which I'll be teaching you. And I taught it to the SWAT officers and I shot much better under high stress, significantly better in terms of judgment and target selection, shooting the right bad guy, not the woman with groceries. At the same time, I was invited to work with the Olympic diving team, 1984, Greg Louganis, Michelle Mitchell, et cetera. And I was with them for 5 years. Started working with professional golfers, tennis players, Grand Prix race car drivers, downhill racers, moved to Vail, taught at the ski school. In the summer, I did golf clinics. I was working with I was at Golf Digest schools for 6 years. I did golf clinics in the summer. I met a musician who was a bass player in a concert series that came through Vail. He's principal bass with the Syracuse Symphony, but also a golfer, and asked my help with his golf game. And we went out and played, and I saw that over putts, he just stood there too long and thought and thought and thought and thought, like, hit the ball already. And we talked about, what happens with musicians. They overthink and they miss notes and all. He asked me if I'd like to work with musicians, and I said, sure. Brought me back to the Syracuse Symphony, started talking to musicians. At the time, I couldn't speak the language of music. I could only talk the language of sports and competition and golf and tennis and all, but they seemed to get it. I got contacted after that by a teacher at Juilliard who said that there was a Met audition coming up for the French horn, very difficult instrument. One position, but since it's the highest paid orchestra in the world, 250 people applied for it for one slot. So they had people send in recordings to weed out 250. They accepted like 60 people. Well, the teacher asked me to work with 4 of her students 2 months before the audition. I started working with them as a group and individually. And the audition came in, and they came in 5th, 4th, 2nd, and 1st. And President Polisi of Juilliard wanted to talk to me right away because 2 of the girls came from Juilliard. And that's when I started teaching at Juilliard, and did that for many years, and also started working on Merrill Lynch on Wall Street, decision-making strategy and dealing with stress, and dealing with a lot of stress and decision-making under stress. And some of the people's parents, vice president's parents, died, and they asked me to do grief counseling, which I did. And I got to be known for the sports psychologist, because I work with different people. It often result in talking about their golf game, not their trading. But after I worked with them, after I took 14 traders through my program, their P&L went up 21%. So they just kept on giving me more traders to train until 9/11 hit. And I was the only psychologist in the company that everybody knew. So I did crisis management, disaster relief, grief counseling for 3 months, until I got burned out. And they said they couldn't afford outside consultants. And I left and went to Hawaii for 2.5 years and recovered. And also started teaching at the medical school for 2nd-year board students who were struggling with their board scores, and taught them centering, which I'll teach today. And eventually came back to Juilliard, and eventually wound up moving to Pasadena, California, which is where I'm at now. And that's all I really want to say. Anybody have any questions? Or now I'll get on, hopefully. Richard, do you want me to start on what we talked about?
Yeah.
I'm
Great,
sorry.
John. Absolutely.
So Richard is a fan of Broadway, and I'm a big fan of Broadway. I love Broadway, and I've been fortunate to work and help people gain a lot of auditions and win jobs on Broadway. So I've got like a lifetime full of free tickets on Broadway if it ever goes back, but it will, okay? But I've seen it from both sides. I've been backstage, I've been right off stage, many concerts, I've been in the pit, many concerts, you name it. I've seen it work with, fortunately, some of the crew members and the musicians and the directors and the choreographers. So I'm gonna give you the other side of it. And that's what really caught my eye when he wrote that. Richard, are they familiar with that, what you wrote? Have they read that about Broadway?
I'm trying to unmute. No, I doubt it. I may have shared it with 1 or 2, but no, not.
Okay. I hope some of you guys are fans of Broadway. I'm a music lover, any kind of music. I grew up with rock and roll and the Beatles and Stones, and I still listen to it, but I love, as a youngster, as a former Green Beret, you would never caught me at an opera until I went to my first opera. And I thought, wow, this is cool stuff. I hope none of my friends see me here. Anyway, so you go see a Broadway show, and it's really moving. These people are talented. They work their asses off their whole life, otherwise they wouldn't be on. This is what they live and breathe. They don't do anything else. It's 7 shows a week or whatever. They don't hang out. Singers don't drink. Well, they shouldn't drink at least. And they give everything they got, and it's a lot. I mean, it's a whole lot if you realize what they do. But at the end, it's all, wasn't that inspiration? Oh my God. I'm crying, I was crying. That's the Broadway experience. But you know, whether it's Broadway or opera or any kind of performance, it's a performance. It's not necessarily who they are, although they're performers. Okay, so you just so moved by this, and there's applause, and everybody's up and down. A curtain call, another curtain call. The stars come out, the bows and bows. You just feel so good. You want to go back by the stage door to shake their hand, like you want to feel that energy and all, and see them smile and all. And that's why you pay to see a Broadway show, and it's worth it. And it's, believe me, when Broadway comes back, it's going to be really expensive. Buy your tickets now. So for anything, so you go back and ask for their autograph and say, "Oh my God, thank you so much." Okay, that's from a fan's point of view. Let's see it from the performer's point of view. All the dancers are in pain. Their ankle. Some kind of medication. The musicians in the pit, there's no room in the pit. They're like this. It's, if you're claustrophobic, you probably got to find another job. It's that tight, and they're on top of each other, and they're blaring in each other's ears, so they have to wear earpieces. Sound, okay? Sometimes they have a conductor, sometimes they don't, and if they don't, they got to ad lib, okay? Actors freaking out, or they've been with the show so long, they're totally they can't wait till the show stops so they can audition and find a different show, because they've been doing this damn show for years. So so you go out to the stage, so they finally get out of the dressing room, and they don't agree with it. They don't all get along, and they all say, "You didn't." So they go out the stage door. It's like, just let me get home and go to bed or whatever. Oh, damn, I got to sign autographs. Are you kidding me? Listen to the same old stuff, how great it was. And got the idea? Stephen, did I summarize? Richard, I'm sorry, why you look like a Stephen?
Yeah, so I'll just chime in for a second, Don. So when we spoke earlier, I had referred to an editorial I wrote a number of years ago, largely focusing on earwax, which is the bane of existence if you're an ear, nose, and throat doc. I mean, cleaning earwax just really gets to you after a while. And the editorial I put out there was that it may be exceptionally boring to you, but it's very exciting to the patient and family. And to view yourself as that center stage Broadway performer, coming out, as Don said, you're in pain, you're bored, you've done this 1,000 times. It's the last thing you want to do. It's like, give me a break. I'd love to see something exciting, but you got to come out there all smiles and joy. It's like those Broadway performers, you're the performer, you're center stage in your office in front of the patient, whether it's an exciting condition or a boring condition, earwax, other things in ENT drive us crazy, ringing in the ears, dizziness. These people can make you nuts, but you have to be that performer and get out there with the passion, the enthusiasm, and that's what you got to do. So, it's all about that performance psychology, whether it's medicine or Broadway.
Thank you. So, when I was teaching at golf school, my only complaint was that I was too serious. Well, I used to teach forensic science and forensic pathology. I'm a serious guy. But we had this one guy on our staff named Tom, and he wasn't necessarily a top teacher. He wasn't a great player like a lot of our teachers were. He was just funny. And he saw the humor in everyday life. He didn't, He didn't tell jokes. He just found fun in missing a putt or whatever, or the silliness of golf. It's kind of crazy. And I saw what a great teacher he was. At the breaks, when the students could go get autographs and they went to this guy like he was the Pied Piper. And when the staff went out at night to eat, he would entertain the sushi chef and the rest of the staff. And I saw how powerful it was. And I couldn't do this when I was at golf school. But when I went to Vail Ski School to teach instructors about stress and all, I became Tom. And everybody thought I was funny. And I saw how powerful it was, because it's not me, it's Tom, but nobody knew. So since then, they've come out with a book called The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman. It's readily available. It's not well written, but it's the same concept of, I know you guys lead a stressful life and a different life, and you have to do things like another procedure for the ultimate time. And part of you doesn't like that. Part of you resents that. But if you got to do it, you might as well make the best of it. And I would suggest you come up with your ideal alter ego who does well with these procedures, with attributes that would lend to that, such as patience, curiosity. What's this person all about? Every person is unique. Enthusiasm, freshness, trying to learn, and the art of concentration. The art of concentration. I'm really starting to look at ADD. I'm starting to work with video gamers, as in ADD. Okay. So I'm starting to learn about ADD, and I've never looked into it before, and it's fascinating. But even people with ADD can concentrate if they're interested in what they're trying to concentrate on. And in that case, they can get into hyperfocus, like incredibly focused. The masters of focus are Zen masters, Zen archers, Zen swordsmen. And they say the sword, the samurai sword, is unfathomable. Namely, there's always something more to find in this, especially in the mundane. It's easy to concentrate on a shiny object, but to concentrate on something boring, that's where you can work on your concentration. And concentration is a master skill. And you can work on it every day in your practice, especially the boring parts. And what you want to do is you want to make every one of these procedures an event, a once in a lifetime event. And this is what I train, no matter if it's an audition, a recital, the Olympics, the World Championships. It only happens once and it will never happen again. So what you're doing is you're creating each one of these events, and you want to create it to be as best possible. So there's a thing called the Olympic training cycle of how to peak for an event. And it's got 4 parts to it. The first part is preparation, getting ready for the event. That normally takes the longest. Second is called tapering. Before the event, the last week or so, you back off the intense training so you can build up energy going to the event with high positive energy. Third part is execution. That's where you do the shot put, do the dive, kick the field goal, whatever. This is where you peak all your energy. And the fourth is recovery. Now, this happens for Olympic athletes over the course of months or longer. For musicians, shorter. And physicians, even shorter. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. Okay. So it involves around this strategy called centering. Centering is meant for high stress situations, what I taught SWAT officers to do. It works. It's what I teach Olympic athletes to do. It works. So it's got 7 different parts. You can write them down. Richard, if you want, maybe later I could send you these instructions, or Laura, if you ask for them, I can get them to you. But it's in response to the stress. And we all know what stress does is affects us mentally, physically, and emotionally. Physically, all the fight, flight response or freeze response. Mentally, it tends to put people much more in left brain than right brain, where they're more self-critical, more into beta thinking, really fast thinking, which sometimes you need to do and sometimes not, or into right brain, where you're seeing things, feeling things, sensing things. And depending upon the procedure, you may need to shift from left to right, depending upon where it is. I'll get back to that. And the third part is emotional, is stress. It's fear. Fear causes tight muscles. Fear causes apprehension, all of this. So the centering strategy I'll teach you comes out of the martial art of Aikido, most mental of the martial arts, and Western sports psychology. 7 steps. Okay. Number 1, clear intent. What are you trying to do in this next procedure? Not the obvious, not clear out the ear, but work on my people skills, work on my focus, work on my bedside manner. Have a clear intent, one clear intent, but shift it around. Otherwise, it'll get boring. Then what you want to do is you want to focus your eyes on one thing, because under stress, people tend to scan with their eyes. So you overload your brain, or put your brain more into left brain with information you have to process because it's visual information. So rather than doing that to your brain, just focus on any one point. Let your eyes just settle on one point to quiet some of the mental activity. Okay. Next thing you want to do is you want to get in touch with your breathing. If nothing else, get in touch with your breathing. That will slow things down, oxygenate your brain, which is always a good idea. Slowly in through your nose, count of 3, 5, or 7, pause, out to the same count. There's a progressive relaxation, the Herbert Benson, the relaxation response. There's a million of them. I find centering, sorry for the noise, they're cutting grass. This is one I like because it can be done in a relatively short period of time and it's highly effective. Okay, so after the clear intention and directing your eyes to a point, or you can close your eyes, breathing, get in touch with your breathing, maybe for 5 to 7 breaths until you focus only on your breathing. But again, this is the basic form of centering. And this form takes, when you first learn it, I'm going to ask you to practice it, about a minute. Then you go to intermediate centering, 30 seconds. Then you go to advanced centering, 3 breaths, less than 10 seconds. Unless it's an extreme emergency, I think you will always have 10 seconds. Richard, can we agree on that? That they always at least have 10 seconds? Yes, okay. So now that you're in touch with your breathing, then you want to look for upper body tension, because in the course of a day and different procedures and the stresses, tension unconsciously builds up in your upper body, especially your jaw, forehead, and communicates to your brain that you're under stress. So if you do nothing before you go in, shake out your shoulders. If you watch Olympic athletes before they golfers, tennis players at the service line, loose muscles execute better than tight muscles. Excuse me. The reason why musicians choke in auditions is because they're used to practicing the violin in relaxed circumstances with a nice flowing motion, supple muscles. They get into an audition and it's that. And they hear that, they instinctively say, oh shit, then they tighten up even more, and that's when they choke. Anyway, so you want to get your muscles loose. And this, again, if you're feeling your muscles, you're shifting over into right brain. If you're focused on your breathing, you're shifting over into right brain. Now, here's where you have a choice. Right brain is where you see, feel, and hear. All right brain. You don't need any instructions in left brain. You know how to do this. It's about making this like an art form. This is a performance. So you can either do sound, image, sensation, or all 3, okay? Sound is you're an actor and you rehearse your opening lines. Good afternoon, Mrs. Peterson. Nice to see you today. And you rehearse it in your mind like an actor. That gets you in right brain. Okay. Or you can do visual. You can imagine yourself making a great instance like an actor. Hi, Mrs. Peterson. I'm your favorite doctor. Levity is always good. We all know about Norman Cousins, right? The Power of Healing, of Laughter in Medicine, UCLA department, a Dr. Kataria with laughing groups all over the world. Dopamine, serotonin. If you're happy, your patients will be happier. One of your main goals, I think, is to strive to be happy. I'm convinced happy musicians make better sounds. Happy actors win auditions. And I think happy physicians are good for the patients and the physician. When I write a book, I won't stop writing until I'm in good mood. And since during COVID, I was counseling a lot of people in New York over Skype and Zoom, the Musicians Union. I was writing a monthly column for them, and I became a sports psychologist. I don't deal well with depression. And after several months, I got really depressed. I still had to write the articles about, being optimistic until I stopped writing. I said, I can't, and this was back in November, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell people to be happy. I'm not happy. Anyway, but I would get myself happy in the morning by watching late night comedy from the night before, like Stephen Colbert. So, or sensation of, again, just a sensation to get your body loose, get back in touch with your body before you're concerned with somebody else's body. So this is what you want to do, and practice it and see away from, at home or going to work or when you're on the subway or stressed out, and do it 21 times, and then move to the intermediate and then move to the advanced, and then you'll be able to do it before you go in. So this is the preparation I'm talking about. Learn how to center, okay? Before you go in, clear intention, what you're going to do, get yourself in a right brain. Hear it and all that, and then open a door with a smile on your face. A smile on your face. There's studies showing if you smile, it goes up to the brain and changes your brain chemistry to make you happier. Plus, smiling is always good when you're dealing with new patients or old patients. Really important. So I was working with this javelin thrower at the training center a few years ago. He was pure left brain. Dartmouth undergraduate, graduate in mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineering is pure left brain. This guy was totally, most Olympic athletes, at night work at McDonald's. He worked for Raytheon. He's one of the brightest guys I've ever met, but extreme left brain. So we went through all this stuff, shifting the right brain, seeing, feeling the ideal show, but I was always saying, hey, lighten up, serious guy. So we get to the Olympic trials at Sacramento, and they get 5 throws. 5 throws for the best throw gets to 2 top spots. So he's gone through his routine, which included centering at the back of the runway and then going and popping it. He has an okay first throw, his okay second throw. He fouls on the 3rd and 4th throw, and he's going for his 5th throw. So he's standing at but this is it. If he makes it or not, this is it. He was 28 or 29 by then. If he doesn't make it, he's going back to Raytheon, which he didn't want to do. He wanted to go Rio. So he's standing at the back of the runway with the javelin in his hand. And he's centering. I can see him going through the steps. And then all of a sudden he starts smiling. I'd worked with him for 2 years. I never saw him smile once. He's smiling. This is the Olympic trials. He's smiling. And then he just starts running down the runway. And I'd never seen him run so fast. He was free. I'd never seen him run. I'd watched him for 2 years. He was free. He hit his spot. And it was like, boom! And it's like this explosion went off. And I thought for sure he's going to foul. He was carrying so much speed into the end. I thought for sure he's going to. He pops it. It was 82 meters, which is huge. He won the Olympic trials. So, and then I couldn't talk to him for like an hour. The coaches, then drug testing, and then the media and all of that. And finally, he comes over and said, "Sean, what was so funny?" And he says, I finally got it. Just enjoy the moment. to the max and be free. Yeah. So it's very important that you smile. And some people have trouble with it. My Juilliard students, my Asian students have trouble showing their teeth and smiling. So that was the exercise. We want to see teeth. Practice your smile in front of the mirror if you need to, get more comfortable with it. Your patients deserve it, and so does your stress relief. So that's what I would say, that, and go in and really, really look them in the eye, get to understand them, make them feel comfortable, ask them beyond just the normal. Certainly listen to what they're saying. Pay attention, reward it. Reassure them. All of those is what people crave, especially from a doctor that they're waiting for, can help them, whatever. I think it's critical that you see that part of your healing is beyond, you know, the tools and the procedures. A lot of healing gets done between you. Okay, some other thoughts. A great book on optimism is Martin Seligman, Learned Optimism. Great book, it's a little bit thick. All these books are on audio tape. I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer. You'll see it when you believe it and stuff. He's really good, very positive psychology. The book Flow, if you're not familiar with the book Flow, it's genius. It's by a doctor at the University of Chicago. He's got a long last name. I'll try to do it. Dr. Sentmi. It's 10 months. He grew up in Croatia in World War II in horrible conditions. And he saw that in spite of it, some people were thriving, making the best of it. Came to the United States, bachelor's, master's, PhD, University of Chicago. His dissertation was on happiness. What makes people happy? And what makes people happy is when they're in flow. And flow means when things are just smoothly flowing like water in a stream. When people are fully engaged in what they're doing, they're enjoying it, paying full attention to get away from into the world of focus. I love to focus. I love to write. I get in the zone. I was a terrible writer in college. Hated to write. My highest grade was a D. I love to write. I get in a zone. I can write for hours without wanting to stop and then go back, not wanting to eat and bring my energy down. I love to concentrate like a Zen master. I can get in a zone. And if you practice it, you can get in a zone through these procedures. Of course it's boring, but it's happening and deserves your full attention. And in that room, is there anything else more important to pay attention to than the patient and your developing skills with patients? People in flow when they're engaged in autotelic activity, namely they enjoy it, they just enjoy it. I'm asking, I know this is serious stuff. There's a little bit of a push to try to enjoy your skills getting better through these boring procedures, or boring patients, if you will. Dr. Crane on Cheers said, you know, what fun are your patients if you can't laugh at them? Don't say that out loud. Okay. The deep breath, the eye contact, the listening in flow, working on your focus skills, because each procedure is an Olympic event. At least it is for your patients, and hopefully you treat it that way. The way you talk, the way you move. So back to this alter ego. If I found like a lot of my musicians were shy introverts. Shy introvert does not win auditions. The audition panels want to see a show. They don't want to see a shy introvert. I know this personally because I'm a shy introvert. That's where the alter ego comes in. Okay, and you figure out your act, your procedure act, like they have an audition act. Okay, this book highlights a number of stars in Hollywood and Broadway and song who are extreme introverts, like Nicki Minaj and Lady Gaga and Beyonce and Tom Cruise. Like, and the whole book is filled with really famous people who are introverts, shy introverts, and what they do is an act. Now, actors get paid to act, but Robert De Niro does not act like that around his home. I don't think his wife would tolerate it. It's an act. So is Broadway. We like to be entertained. And if it doesn't feel genuine, nobody's going to call you on it. And I would ask you to consider the parts of your personality, your real true self, that don't set up well for boring ear procedures. And then figure out some characteristics that do, like become a Zen master. Really, you're stepping into a battle. You're going to focus totally on this. A person with incredible patience, a funny person, compassionate person, soothing, all the attributes, and your act, like what I'm telling you about. It will make it interesting for you, probably help them. When a lot of people are reluctant to do this, I'm working with a trumpet player, a graduate student at the Royal Academy of Music in London. She's a shy introvert. She failed her first recital. If she failed the next one, she was out of school. She was very serious, very cautious, couldn't get her to smile. So we started building her Polly. The alter ego has a name. Mine is Tom, not Don Green, it's Polly for her. And what she liked, and that Polly was outlandish, bold, funny, kind of whatever. And I said, okay, now let's get some clothes. I can't ask you to do this, but get some clothes and a amulet, something you hold on to that reminds you of this. And you start walking a different way, talking a different way. You got to practice it in safe environments. But you guys got kind of a safe environment. When I was doing this in New York, I would do it with cab drivers. But nowadays it's Lyft drivers. Or you just go into a department store and act like somebody else. Talk differently. Have fun. Become an actor. Don't go in stores where you've ever been and never will go again. You don't buy anything. Just try out your act. And I got this girl to make believe she was an American with an American accent, going to these stores with a beret on that she would never wear. And it loosened up and she just nailed her graduate recital. And she said, well, Polly didn't say, I don't care. You nailed it. So that's something. The book is called Alter Ego, Tom Herman. And I think it's worth taking a look at if, you're struggling with keeping it up. And I think all of you must struggle with that. Your sleep is obviously very important. I know most of you don't get enough sleep, not enough quantity or quality. All my Juilliard students never enough sleep. The best book on sleep is called Power Sleep. James Maas, M-A-A-S. It's a little bit old, but it's got rules for sleep, how important it is. Power naps, 20-minute power naps, why not 35 minutes? Sleep cycles, understanding it. It's brilliant because most of you probably never get enough sleep. And that really has an effect, dramatic effect on your mood, execution, all that. So what you want to do before you go in is to taper, and then go in with all this energy, give them a Broadway show, walk out, and please taper and recover. That's the fourth part, recovery. Don't just immediately go into the next room unless there's an emergency there. Take a walk, get some fresh air, and then start again with preparation to go in, centering, execution, the whole thing. And the better you can do this and the shorter you can get, the more your day will be like this, not up a plateau and then a crash. Yes. And if you do this, you can go and hopefully each one refreshed and ready for the next challenge. If the only challenge is to keep your focus on this procedure, well, there's your challenge and get better at it. I think we're at a question and answer point. Richard.
Hey, thank you, Don. That really was great. They say when passion meets purpose, anything can happen, and it's clear that your passion has met your purpose. So, thank you for that. And to me, the absolute most empowering thing about what you said is that anyone can do this. You just go to the nearest mirror and you can find the solution to your problems, because it's all about your mental attitude. In the bigger field of lifestyle medicine, we say that a positive mental attitude is three things. It's contentment with the past, happiness in the present, and hope for the future. And I think this happiness in the present is what you're getting at. It's it's living in the moment. It's being in the moment. It's recognizing the importance of your mental attitude. That you're always performing when you're in front of people. And there are ways we can either enhance that or detract from it. And that's going to either make us happy or unhappy. And that I think is just such an empowering message. Before we turn over to the general Q&A, and I think, is Jigar going to handle that, Laura, or who's handling the Q&A?
Alex will.
Alex will, okay. Don, can you just talk a little bit about how this relates to the topic of mindfulness in general, more, not so much the Eastern version of meditating and isolating, but the more Western version of, I guess, active engagement in the moment, being aware, engaged, attentive to what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't say meditation in there because I don't think you guys, a lot of you don't have an extra 40 minutes a day to do meditation. Mindfulness is quicker and better. I like that. But the centering is my solution for very busy people. In terms of burnout, a lot of your time, you folks, is in the left brain, and a lot of thinking and all, and that really can be taxing, and it needs to be balanced with right brain stuff. And the right brain stuff is any creative things you do, drawing, painting, sculpting, knitting, really, really important. Recreation, as in recreate yourself. Long walks. There's a thing called forest bathing in Japan, Sri Rinkyo, that you get in a forest and all the, I'm not sure, serotonin, whatever, you're in a non-linear environment, hearing nature, non-linear sounds, and it's 20 minutes a day. I know this park's in Central Park. What's the name? McCarran Park. You probably not that one. Anyway, that's a good thing. Comedy movies. Norman Cousins, he healed himself of this terrible disease and pain with the power of humor. It's very healing, again, for yourself and other people. Good quality time with people that you love and hug and care for. The stress is not going to go away, but hopefully you can continue to manage it. Getting the cortisol and norepinephrine out of your system, and dopamine and serotonin, oxytocin and endorphins. There's all sorts of ways to get those things beyond the common ways. Constantly striving to be happy. That's work. Striving to be happy. It's a full-time job and really worth it. Really worth it. This book on flow, he's the expert on what makes people happy. Okay. And one of the key components of flow, when you're at your absolute best, is you're in the zone that you're focused on this activity. And just like the Zen archers, you become one with the activity. You become the procedure. And that's really when you get in the zone. And then it won't matter what you're doing. I've been spending a lot of time talking to Greg Louganis lately. I'm not sure, some of the younger folks don't know him, but he's the world's best diver, an amazing person, but he's pure right brain. And right now he's trying to figure out his left brain is trying to figure out how his right brain did it. And I was a diver, I know it well, and we're really exploring peak functioning. Okay, really interesting stuff. And what we've come with, he was one with the dive. There was no distinction. If there's no separation, there's no missing the dive. That's Zen archery. So to really get in a zone of whatever the activity is, get into it, become one with it, become absorbed, immersed, fascinated by it. And they say, like the lover beholding the beloved. Yeah.
Alex, are there questions in the queue, or do you want to open it up?
Yeah, I was going to open it up to anybody who had any questions. I know some people don't have their cameras on, but feel free to, unmute yourself or post a question in the chat, and I will definitely relay that.
In the meantime, there's a great book called Thinking Fast, Slow, written by one of the top psychologists in the country right now. And this is real important. We have two speeds of processing in our brain. And part of the execution that I was talking about, when you are executing, when you're in a room, you're going to be back and forth between left and right brain, okay? And speeds of thinking. Okay. The rule is perception precedes thought, and thought precedes action. Perception precedes thought, thought precedes action. So you walk into a room and you immediately have a perception of what's going on. The condition of the patient, the mood of the patient, the vibe. It's part of your makeup. It's what you do, and it's instantaneous. That's fast thinking. Then you slow down the thinking and think, well, and figure it out. The patient says to you, I'm having these symptoms, and you need to shift to slower thinking and say, okay, well, then I got to do this and this and this. And then you shift back into the fast thinking, namely really focused in the moment, in a nanosecond of the moment by moment. And that's focus. And it's a great book to read. It's got a lot of other stuff. It's pretty technical. And the other book I strongly recommend is Mind to Matter. Mind to Matter. It's fascinating. It's very scientific. A lot of new scientific stuff from quantum physics, quantum entanglement, all of that stuff. It applies. The idea is what you think is what you get. So the question I started with is, how do you create an event? How do you create a good procedure? How do you create an Olympic medal? It's the same process, okay? It starts with an image, an image in your mind, like first time you thought you could be a doctor, and that's all you need is that strong image. And that starts the creation, which for some of you has wound up you being a doctor in medical school. At some point, probably young, you had that image. So image is the first level of creating an event. Imagining a procedure going well. Imagine winning an Olympic medal. You got to have the picture. Hopefully the passion will be accompanied by the picture. Next comes the words. Hey, what do you got in that book? Well, it's a book on anatomy. Why are you studying anatomy? I'm going to be a doctor. And you confirm the picture. And you start creating and building this doctor. Next comes the courageous action, because nothing happens without taking action. You got to sign up for medical school. You got to take the boards, all that stuff. And that takes courage. It takes courage, as far as I'm concerned, to go to medical school in the first place. I'd much rather jump out of a plane or be in jungle warfare than, anyway, my brother's a surgeon, I can say that. So the courage to act, to take action and do it. And continue working at it until it's done. With your belief behind it. Full belief, I can do this. I know I can do this. I worked with a woman on the Olympic dive. Well, she was on the national team. She was a platform diver. If you've never seen platform, it's 33 feet up and 100 feet down. It will definitely get your heart racing. I love it. It's pure adrenaline. And she was a great diver. And she went to medical school at UCSD, called me up. She says, I'm freaking out. I went to see her. She says, I'm scared to death of surgery, my surgery rotation. There's a platform diver, afraid of, but it's throughout. A lot of fears. Certainly a few guys and malpractice or who knows why, and COVID, holy shit. So it's constantly building your courage, because it takes courage. And I wrote a book on fear, but there's a better book than my book. The book is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's on audio. There's no excuse. You can listen to it on your way back and forth. If you're not familiar with this, it will change your life. Because there's only two things that hold people back. It's negative thinking, including doubt, and fear. That's it. That's it. Well, no work ethic, but assuming you have the goods and you're willing to work, it's your state of mind and a state of emotions, namely your fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Susan Jeffers, she used to teach at a school in, I think, CCNY, a course on emotions, as in fear. And the course kept on getting bigger and bigger until they had to hold in the auditorium. Then she went public, I think, the Learning Annex, I'm not sure if that's still in New York, and then wrote the book and realized that this is the number one issue for most people, fear, and not knowing what to do with it.
Are there any questions, Alex or others?
I don't see any in the chat as yet, but I had a question that I wanted to ask. I wanted to first thank you so much for being here and speaking to us. I really enjoyed the talk and the information that you gave, and it's actually a kind of a two-part question. So the first part I feel is, well, as us in a digital age, I feel like we're constantly surrounded by Instagram and Facebook and bombarded with all these different things of, oh, this is great, this is what we should be doing, and oh, I look like this. So I feel like it's so difficult and it constantly detracts from my focus a lot of times. So my question is really, how do we center in this increasingly digitized world? And then kind of the second part to that would be, a lot of times also I feel like that digitization and the things I see engage almost a competitiveness. I know as medical students, we can sometimes be competitive. We want to do well, but it's hard. There's only a limited residency position. There's limited this. And how do we harness that competitiveness to something that's positive rather than it detracting from us and taking us away?
Well, by focusing more on you, inspire, I help athletes win, not by trying to beat other people, but trying to do their best. Okay, so that would be the first one. The digital stuff is not going away. It's just going to increase more. But again, the necessity for several times a day just to check out. And, again, with the centering or whatever, they've got all these new programs. Oh, one last thing, there's binaural beats. If you've never heard of binaural beats, BINAURAL, they bounce tones off of different hemispheres and they synchronize both hemispheres and put you into gamma, which is the state of extreme focus. And it's free. And once I started putting it on to write with, I don't write without them on. It just puts me immediately in the zone. So you might find something like that you can put on for 30 seconds. There's one that releases serotonin, one that releases dopamine, one that puts you in a creative state, one that puts you in a meditative state. Play around with them. They just put me in the zone. So, and again, a nice relaxation for your brain. Always good. Did that get that question? I'm not sure.
Thank you. Yes, it did. I'm definitely going to check that out. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Richard, I think we're out of time. I really enjoyed this, and everybody, thanks for joining in and sharing. I'd love to do another follow-up if you want on similar but related topic.
We'd love it. The thing about this group is these students, and I work with them in a number of capacities. They're incredible. They are getting grants. They are doing educational things. They're speaking nationally. They're engaged with lifestyle medicine. They are movers and shakers. If my own residents did half as much as them, I'd be impressed. But this is a special group. So even though you know, we didn't have 100 people on the thing. The ones who are here are very special. And I have no doubt that your words really sunk in and will help them, you know, be even more successful at what they do. So it was really appreciated. And there are so many insights. I was taking notes the whole time. So I have all my notes to look back on. And I just think about how much of this I just simply, you know, agree with you. And a book I would add to your list is Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah, classic, absolutely.
The first book on the philosophy of success, commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, in the late 19th century. And one of his key points is you can achieve what the mind can conceive. And that visualization will accomplish anything. It's, you know, it's a bit hokey, Think and Grow Rich, some of the stuff in it now, but it's got some timeless principles. It's a great book.
It really does.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
All right. Thank you so much, Don. Laura, you want to close it out? And
I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness and speaking to us. It was really nice to hear from you and hear your stories. And it was great to hear also like your personal story and how you came to speak to us today. And it was really a pleasure.
It's Richard's fault.
don't mess with those green berets. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Good night, all. Thanks again, Don. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.